everyone, my name is Eric Hopkins, aka JEL. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So AEW Dynamite for April 3rd, 2024 here on WrestleMania week with AEW Dynasty a few weeks away here. We had a pretty good show, I thought, all things considered, for Dynamite this week. AEW was in the news a lot, especially even though it's not technically their biggest week of the year. It is definitely WWE's. A lot of that had to do with CM Punk, which we'll get into here in just a second. But yeah, we had a pretty decent show, I thought, all things, top to bottom. The show started out with Adam Copeland in the ring, addressing, without mentioning his name, but addressing CM Punk's interview with Ariel Helwani on the MMA Hour, where he basically talked about how he didn't feel like AEW was a real business. They don't care about making money or, improving, or they just want to put on good matches or whatever. And of course, he called Tony Khan, he wasn't a boss and things like that. Now, and as I mentioned on our WrestleMania prediction show, when we slightly discussed it a little bit, you got to understand with CM Punk, which a lot of people don't care for CM Punk. A lot of people love CM Punk. But that's strictly his opinion on the matter. And even Cody Rhodes was on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani, I think yesterday, as you're watching the show, and he was kind of pressed on the same thing by Ariel Helwani. It sounded like Ariel Helwani was even kind of trying to get Cody Rhodes to badmouth AEW a little bit. Of course, Cody wasn't going to do that because he's a class act. But I mean, he was asked the same sort of situation, and Cody Rhodes was like, that's CM Punk's assessment of the situation. That's not my assessment. He loves Kenny, he loves the Bucks, and he loves Tony, and he's proud of everything that they're doing over here in AEW. So Adam Copeland just kind of come out and pretty well, like I said, he didn't address Punk in person or call him out by name, but everybody knew what he was talking about here when he said, we need to focus on the positive. We don't need to be worrying about what was said by anybody else and the negativity going around. That and not only that, he addressed he didn't say this word, but he addressed the tribalism in the internet wrestling community and those online who just want to bash and be critical criticism is okay if the show warrants it, but you do it in a respectful manner. There's some people out there who just want to bash on the shows, hate watch it, and people have done it for WWE too, so I'm being fair here. But this whole negativity surrounding professional wrestling, and if it's not my team, I can't like it, or if it's not WWE, it's not good, or if AEW does something different than WWE, AEW is terrible. That's what Edge is talking about here. And he even got a boo from somebody in the crowd. And Edge even pointed out, you're missing the point. And there's even people upset with the fact that Adam Copeland. It's hard to call him Adam Copeland after all these years. But Copeland went out there and he said, you're basically missing the point of this whole diatribe that he went on here about being positive and loving pro wrestling. We don't have to be so tribalistic because, people who didn't even like the fact that Copeland come out here and gave this speech at the beginning of the show, and they were criticizing, saying, well, AEW needs to stop worried about what everybody else is doing and focus on themselves. But if CM Punk comes out and says something against AEW, you mean AEW is not allowed to give a rebuttal and give their side of it? I mean, Punk basically laid out all of his grievances about it, even though he might have an NDA he's got to be attached to. And Edge comes out and kind of, lays out, and even Edge himself said it was his decision. He asked for this time. And even Dax Harwood cut a promo on the crowd and mentioned it as well after Collision, the tapings or whatever, during the Collision tapings this week. So that was interesting to see, considering him and CM Punk were like this, I thought. So he wasn't thrilled about it either. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with Adam Copeland coming out and addressing this. But people want to just say, well, AEW has no right to address it because they should just act like it never happened, quit focusing on other people. But with Punk is in the other company addressing AEW, that's a bit hypocritical in my opinion. If he's allowed to do it, AEW should be allowed to do the same thing. I just feel like this whole thing is ridiculous. I mean, pro wrestling, as Adam Copeland mentioned, as The Rock has mentioned as well, is cool again. It's at a great place right now. Both companies have great rosters. The talent is outstanding. And the fact that people are just constantly complaining about, well, they're doing something, they're doing this wrong, they're doing that wrong, they're doing it. And I understand that, sometimes, it's okay to criticize if the show isn't good or something, but we need to be respectful about it. These people are putting their lives out here to just, give us a good show to watch every week. They put their lives on the line in the ring. And, they give us their time and their effort and their sweat and their blood and their tears to just give us good wrestling shows. So when people like this, it gets annoying to, especially these wrestlers who they all love each other. I mean, they're all rooting for each other in all these other companies. Copeland even said as much. He's like, he used to watch WWF back in the day. That's when he got the boo. That's the point. WWF, WWE, there's nothing wrong with watching it. And I like both shows. I review both shows here on the channel. And I know I'm going off a bit of a diatribe here, but WWE and AEW, they're both fun to watch right now. And even Ring of Honor's fun. TNA's doing pretty well from what I understand. I've not been watching it as much as some of these others, but it's hard to keep up with all the wrestling. But there's so much good wrestling out there right now. There's no reason anybody should be complaining right now. Do you want to go back to just the WWE monopoly to where there's nothing to really push them to drive them to put on these great shows? Because obviously Vince McMahon was very complacent for a long time, and that's what Copeland is saying here. AEW makes the wrestling business better. If you don't like what they're doing, you don't have to watch, but quit being assholes about it and quit going online just bashing people for no reason. What is the point? What do you get out of that? I mean, seriously. I mean, if you, like I said, if you want to criticize the show respectfully, that's welcome. There's nothing wrong with that. But you're going out there, death threatening people and stupid stuff like that. It's like, come on, guys, we've got to be better as a society, or we're not going to make it. I mean, people are just absolutely offended about everything nowadays. It drives me crazy. But anyway, that notwithstanding, I thought Copeland did a good job here of kind of just, telling everybody to calm down, chill out, enjoy the show. It's going to be a great show tonight. It's going to be a great show this weekend for WrestleMania weekend. I'm excited about that too. People in AEW are excited about it as well. It's a fun time to be a pro wrestling fan, everybody. Just enjoy wrestling. That's what matters. And after this, he kind of did that for a few minutes. Didn't go about as much as I did, really. But he brought out Will Ospreay, and he's talked about all these matches that he could even have with all these talent, that AEW has that Copeland's never wrestled in his life. They'd be first time matches. Will Ospreay, Will Hobbs, all these guys that he's never got. Malachi Black, he's never got a chance to wrestle. That's why he came to AEW, and that's why he wants to end his career here. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. If a WWE guy goes to AEW, oh my God, he's a traitor to our company in WWE. But if MJF somehow ends up in WWE, or when Cody Rhodes ended up in WWE, WWE welcomes them with open arms. Those fans welcome him with open arms, but they bashed him the whole time he was in AEW. And this goes both ways. Sometimes AEW fans do the same thing for WWE as well. But when they come to AEW, oh my God, it's great. We got we got Mercedes Moné. Oh, but Sasha Banks sucked. I mean, just stop. That's all I'm asking. Just stop. All right, let's move on to the actual show. But anyway, Will Ospreay came out, and he was getting ready for his match with Powerhouse Hobbs, and of course, I thought this was a great match between the two. The Battle of the Wills here, yeah, definitely a lot of fun. This was a great match for the two guys. They had very different wrestling styles between the two of them, and this was always going to be a fun match, but it may have even exceeded expectations for some fans out there. Will Hobbs kicked out of Ospreay's signature cutter, but he was unable to do the same after being hit with the hidden blade. Will Hobbs was angry after the match. He actually didn't even want to shake Will Ospreay's hand. And this is, again, just kind of playing into the fact the Don Callis family could possibly be on its way to a bit of a split, especially in Will Ospreay's case, which ever since Will Ospreay has gotten here in AEW, he's been facing every member of the Don Callis family, from Konosuke Takeshita to Kyle Fletcher and now Will Hobbs, and he's beaten every single one of them, which is probably going to drive some jealousy inside the Don Callis family of Will Ospreay. So Hobbs here, like, again, just kind of furthering this idea that they're going to eventually split off from one another, and obviously that makes some complete total sense. Will Ospreay is going to be one of the top shelf superstars here in AEW for many years to come, and he's still young, and I think that's going to be exciting to watch his career flourish after his days in New Japan and other places. So I can't wait to see what they do with Will Ospreay going into the future. After this match was over with, Will Ospreay was leaving the arena, or heading back up the ramp, and he passed Bryan Danielson, who come out, and Will Ospreay's like, yo, top that. And obviously Bryan Danielson's done this in the past where he's kind of like not acknowledged guys when he comes out to the ring, but Will Ospreay kind of stopped him in his tracks and said, yo, top that, man. And if you could read Bryan Danielson's lips, he said, well, it's going to be pretty hard to do that after what I just watched. So some mutual respect here being shown between Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson before their match on April 21st at AEW Dynasty. So I love to see that here. And top that, Bryan Danielson did not, in my opinion, actually, although I thought he did have a good match here against Lance Archer. It's good to see Lance Archer on the show. I know he's sometimes a little bit underutilized. I really like him. He's a big man. He's, a couple big guys in here against some underdogs at the beginning of this show. The Murder Hawk Monster dominated for the first few minutes of this match, actually, and kind of playing up, again, the underdog aspect of it. It was a fun encounter, but Archer regained control and dished out a lot of damage during the break. Felt like the Powerhouse had his number at every turn, with Danielson just kind of getting his butt kicked here. But Danielson eventually hit 3 kicks to the head, followed by a running knee for the win after he hit a running knee before that, which barely staggered the big man. So yeah, they definitely made Lance Archer look like a badass here. And of course, you give the win to Danielson again, just to kind of set up the big matchup at AEW Dynasty against Will Ospreay. So yeah, definitely a fun encounter. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this big time money match over at the pay per view. I can't wait to watch that for sure. Yeah, so yeah, like I said, he picks up the win here. Definitely can't wait for it. To be honest with you, I'm actually more impressed with Will Ospreay as a professional wrestler than I am Brian Danielson at this point, which is crazy because Brian Danielson is outstanding. That's not taking anything away from Brian Danielson at all. It's just that Will Ospreay is just, I don't know, his matches they're not as methodical as Brian Danielson. I think that's the difference of styles. But I think those two together could absolutely create a lot of magic in the ring when it comes to the pay per view. So definitely can't wait to see that. After the Danielson match, we had Renee Paquette bringing out Chris Jericho and Hook. Chris Jericho called out Hook, said he wants to talk to him. After last week, he offered him his mentorship and advice, and Hook said he would take it, but then he kind of looked at him. It's like, I know who you are, and so he asked Hook to believe in him. And Hook said that he got them a match on Collision this week. Said he does believe in him, but he still is going to be keeping an eye on him. So this is kind of a repeat of the promo that was done last week. So it didn't really do a whole lot to excite me. Hopefully they'll do something on Collision this Saturday night, late Saturday night, like 11:30 p.m. on the East Coast, for this match with apparently Shane Taylor Productions with him and Lee Moriarty. So I don't know how much I'm feeling this right now. But I'm hopefully they'll do something with it outside of these promos, because right now the promos are just not cutting it for me. But it's just kind of slowly getting the storyline moving here, and hopefully maybe we'll see where they're going with it in that tag match coming up here Saturday night on Collision. Next up, we had the match between Jay White and Daddy Ass Billy Gunn. This was an interesting start to this, because Jay White kind of come out with his entrance and his title, and as the camera was spinning around him as it normally does, you get the silhouette of Daddy Ass behind him, and he jumps in from behind, because if you remember, Jay White last week intruded on Billy Gunn's home, went into his home with his sons Austin and Colton Gunn of the Bang Bang Gang, and of course, Daddy Ass was not feeling that, and I guess this match was supposed to be one-on-one. The Guns and the Acclaimed said they were not going to be at ringside to keep things fair, but of course, during the match, we had a spot where Daddy Ass looked up at the screen, and the Acclaimed were laid out backstage, apparently by the Guns. We didn't know for sure, but that was obviously the implication. Kudos to AEW for not having like Daddy Ass run up the ramp to see what was going on and getting counted out, because that seems to be what WWE does a lot nowadays. You see somebody down in the back and they just have to go run and save them, which it's already too late at that point. But Daddy Ass continued the match, and he was even getting the better of Jay White when the Guns actually showed up, and they were trying to distract Daddy Ass to try to get his attention. And of course, drawing the fact that they're his actual sons. And of course, that led to Jay White delivering a low blow to Billy Gunn to get the advantage. And of course, this ended up being a DQ. But yeah, so that brought out the Acclaimed. Obviously, since the match was over, to kind of send the Bullet Club running a little bit. Bullet Club Gold, that is, Bang Bang Gang, whatever they're calling them now, running to end the segment. But yeah, this match was fine for what it was. Had some fun moments, nothing too memorable per se. This is obviously meant to further the storyline to set up a potential six-man trios championship match to possibly merge the two titles between Ring of Honor and AEW. I'm not sure they're actually going to do that. It's just my speculation at this point. But I think it'll be good to get that trios match and possibly end this feud for good, squash the beef, so to speak, and move forward, especially for Jay White. I mean, I don't think they're burying Jay White like a lot of people were complaining about. Again, unnecessarily complaining here. It's doing a good job to elevate the Guns and the Acclaimed in all this. So again, you got to understand Jay White is being unselfish here. He's going to have his singles run as well. Don't worry about that. Jay White's going to be just fine. If anything, I wouldn't be surprised if Jay White gets the victory here to end this feud altogether. So we'll have to see where that goes. But don't worry about Jay White. He's going to be all right. After the Jay White match, we had Willow Nightingale interview with Renee Paquette. She came out with Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway for an interview with her. Then that's what, and of course, Willow Nightingale cut this pretty good promo about how, a lot of girls like her, chubby or, kind of a freak or whatever, don't always get to have this run. And she was thankful to every single fan who propelled her to this spot in her career, where she's going to be now facing Julia Hart at AEW Dynasty for the TBS Championship, earning her spot. in that match, of course, over the last few weeks. And yeah, so I mean, that was a great promo by Willow Nightingale. It was a good. I just love her upbeat attitude. She's a great character to get behind, and she's going to have a lot of fans with this as well. And of course, that brought out Mercedes Moné, though, who kind of playing the heel here, which is interesting because I mean, obviously the fans were going to cheer for her because she's Mercedes Moné and she's awesome. But obviously, Willow Nightingale didn't take too kindly to this. That look on her face tells the story. I mean, that look is absolutely outstanding. It's just the acting that was going on. I mean, even looking at Renee, kind of going, "What do you think about that?" I mean, this is just a great shot. But Mercedes Moné come out and basically said that whoever leaves AEW Dynasty as the TBS champion, she wants to get the next shot at whoever that is. And this got criticism, and this one is a little more understandable if you want to criticize because Mercedes Moné just came into AEW, and AEW has the ranking system. And this is partially the reason why AEW got rid of the ranking system the first time, and WWE doesn't use it, is because if you don't adhere to their overall record of the wrestler and just give them title matches, a lot of fans complain about, like, wait a minute, Willow Nightingale had to earn her title shot, and Mercedes Moné did not. She just come in here, and all of a sudden, I'm going to call it out. However, I'm going to play devil's advocate here a little bit. The TNT and the TBS Championship, ever since their inception, has had an element of an open challenge to it. So challengers can just come out and say, I want a shot, and they can get it. I mean, Copeland is doing that right now. They've both been doing that ever since their inception. So it's not out of the realm of their continuity to do so. But I understand the criticism if you want to say that Mercedes Moné has not even wrestled in AEW yet, and she's immediately getting a title shot, what it appears to be AEW Double or Nothing at the end of May on Memorial Day weekend here. So if you want to criticize it for that, I understand it. But at the same time, understand the title that you're talking about here. It is a part of the continuity to have open challenges for these belts. So in that regard, I don't have a big issue with it. It obviously is going to be, it sounds like Julia Hart is going to probably get the short end of the stick here as well, which kind of sucks for her because she's doing great. But it sounds like they're going to probably be giving this title to Willow Nightingale to set up that match to kind of tie into the New Japan storyline where Willow Nightingale inadvertently hurt Mercedes Moné and cost her valuable time in her career. So they're going to probably be telling that story. And maybe you do a triple threat or a three-way match. They don't call it a triple threat in AEW between Moné, Willow, and Julia Hart. So maybe they don't, completely screw Julia Hart over here. Which, I mean, like I said, she's had a great run. She's doing great, and she doesn't necessarily need the TBS title. Julia doesn't. But yeah, so I think this is going to be fine. I understand the criticism here a little bit more. If you want to criticize this, I get it. But like I said, just be respectful in your criticism. That's all I ask. After this segment, we had the semifinal match in the World Tag Team Championship tournament featuring the Young Bucks and the Best Friends. Very solid match between the four guys who have been very consistent performers for AEW since its inception. We got several great double team spots and even a fun moment with Sue at ringside, who put on her, which was Trent Beretta's mother, who accompanied the Best Friends to the ring. She put the sunglasses on so she could see the match, which was really cool. And there was even a spot where Matthew Jackson went to the outside, teased like he was going to super kick Sue, and then Sue slapped him, although she didn't swing real hard. It kind of looked like she just kind of grazed him. But Matthew Jackson did a great job of selling it as well. But yeah, great. These guys got great chemistry together, and they've had this in spades ever since the AEW started, 5 years ago. So yeah, the Bucks ended up defeating the Best Friends to advance in the tournament by using an exposed turnbuckle to their advantage on Trent Beretta. So yeah, as Best Friends prepared to do their group hug after the match, though, we got this incredible turn by Trent Beretta, who apparently is so frustrated with losing over and over and over again. As they were getting ready to do the group hug, he just slammed like a psycho knee into Orange Cassidy and just knocked him flat out. So yeah, this was a good turn and a long time coming for Trent Beretta. And the Best Friends, like I said, everybody loves the Best Friends, but at the same time, it's just like, they've always been kind of like right there on the cusp. And Orange Cassidy's had some great success, but as a unit, it just feels like they've never really gotten to that next level. So at some point, it was bound to implode here with all the losses they've taken over the last few years. I can't remember if they ever won the AEW World Tag Team Championship or not. I'm not positive on that, but it was not, they're not as prominent as some of these other tag teams. So I like the element here of having Trent Beretta turn on the Best Friends. I don't know where Chuck Taylor's going to stand on this as Trent Beretta's full-time partner. But Orange Cassidy was the one who, Trent's been teaming with due to Chuck's injury. So I don't know exactly how this is all going to play out. I love the fact that even Trent, after he, need Orange Cassidy, he even walked past his mother, didn't even acknowledge that she was there, and she was just as stunned as everybody else was. So nice little story element here is a little bit of a surprise. So I'm intrigued to see where they go with this coming up in the future here. Trent Beretta definitely has talent to go on a singles run if they want to do that with him too. Done a lot of great work in other independent places outside of AEW. So can't wait to see where they go with this. I'm very much intrigued to see what happens. After the Trent Beretta turn, we had a one-on-one women's match. The number one ranked contender Thunder Rosa versus the number two ranked contender Mariah May in a number one contenders match to see who will face Tony Storm, timeless Tony Storm at AEW Dynasty for her AEW Women's World Championship. Fun match between the two ladies, very physical right out of the gate. They were not holding anything back and wanted to make sure they delivered a good main event here for sure, because I believe this was the last match on the show before the main event segment. But yeah, it looks like Thunder Rosa scores the win here as Tony Storm looks shocked. Yeah, so Rosa dared her to put the title on the line on the outside of the ring, but the champion Tony Storm just stared at her speechless. It was a great visual to see Tony Storm just absolutely, shocked that this happened and couldn't believe that her protege Mariah May lost to Thunder Rosa to set up the Women's World Championship match at AEW Dynasty between these two ladies here. So yeah, again, this makes complete sense storyline wise, especially for Tony Storm to be defending the title against Thunder Rosa, because Thunder Rosa never lost the title. She had to relinquish the title due to the fact that she got injured. So yeah, this makes perfect sense to tell this story. So, if Tony Storm wants to hold on to the belt, she's got to go through the champion who never lost the title. So I'm completely fine with this story. We'll see how the match goes at the pay-per-view. But again, this is probably going to eventually lead to, again, Mariah May splitting from Tony Storm, because I can imagine that Tony Storm is going to blame Mariah May for this. Especially if she loses the title to Thunder Rosa, that could definitely happen. So, again, just kind of slowly building the story out. Everybody wants to say AEW doesn't have stories, but this is one of those. Again, it's a slow roll, it's a slow build, so to speak. And I think they're just kind of slowly planting the seeds to the eventual turn of Mariah May and Tony Storm as well. So we'll see how this goes at the pay-per-view. But I think it'll be a fun match between the two ladies. Of course, the biggest thing that did happen on AEW Dynamite this week was the final segment, the main event segment, the contract signing between Samoa Joe and Swerve Strickland for their AEW World Championship match at AEW Dynasty coming up on April 21st. Yeah, this was outstanding. I mean, they come down to the ring. You got Prince Nana doing his swerve thing, which is absolutely incredible at all times, and then Joe is, of course, all business all the time. They cut great promos on one another. And Joe basically started out talking about how this is his time, and he's not going to let Swerve take this from him and all this sort of stuff, and he doesn't quite know what he's getting into. He said, "quote I'm going to leave you mentally scarred like you left Diddy's party too late." Great line by Samoa Joe here. Got a big reaction from the crowd, obviously, with all the stuff that's going on with Diddy in real life. Yeah, big time burn here. And as all contract signings end up in professional wrestling, it ended in chaos, as they all do. They ended up going nose to nose a little bit across from the table, and Samoa Joe pushed Swerve, and that got Swerve to kind of, I think, headbutt Samoa Joe, which staggered Joe. And then when he did that, Swerve had a chain that he used to choke out Adam Hangman Page around his neck there. He used it to try to choke Joe, but then Joe kind of turned around, and then of course decked Swerve, which kind of threw him off, and that led to Samoa Joe getting the chain and wrapping it around his wrist, and then he attacked us. Swerve with it and kept pounding him in the head with it, which of course made Swerve bleed. And it looked like that was going to be the end of it. Samoa Joe took up the ramp to leave, and of course that led to Swerve grabbing a microphone, blood soaked all over the place, and he just starts laughing at Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe turns around, is like, "How dare you? Like, how could you possibly be getting up from this?" And just stunned at this point. And of course, Swerve says, I live for this. I love this." And, and then he takes, a pen, and he wipes it across his brow, and and then he takes the pen and signs the contract in his own blood. So yeah, it was a great visual to end AEW Dynamite on. And of course, that led to Samoa Joe, livid at the fact that this happened. He come back down to the ring and, started to attack Swerve again to kind of make the point and drive it home. And he then put him through the contract signing table to lay him out as the show goes off the air, with Samoa Joe lifting the AEW World Championship high in the air to show that he is the dominant force here on AEW Dynamite leading into the pay-per-view. So, like I said, this was the biggest angle on the show, most important thing to happen on the show outside of the outstanding speech by Adam Copeland at the beginning, I think, in my opinion. So yeah, I mean, again, this isn't AEW's big week as it is WWE's. AEW's just, people want to say AEW doesn't do their own thing. What they're doing their own thing. They're on their way to AEW Dynasty, and they say they're building a dynasty out, and they're going to be looking forward to the future. And that looks to be where AEW has actually got their attention focused on, regardless of what people think. And this segment here definitely did a good job of highlighting that. So I think overall it was a pretty good Dynamite tonight. Better than last week's. I thought last week kind of came down a little bit after the 3 weeks of outstanding shows they had. This one was a little bit more of a better show, and they even had a better crowd tonight. And again, a smaller arena, which made it sound better, made it look better. They even did the Willow segment where they were facing the crowd for the interview, so they were doing a good job of highlighting who was there. So again, they're learning here. They're trying to adjust to the way things are. Like I said, they just got to be a little bit more judicious about what buildings they do their shows in and things like that. But like I said, good show tonight. I thought it was a pretty good start to WrestleMania weekend, kind of a little bit early, as it were, ahead of all the big shows this weekend. So with that being said, too, since WrestleMania weekend is coming up this week, I know SmackDown, Rampage, and the Hall of Fame are on Friday night, along with the Ring of Honor Supercard of Honor. Then, of course, we got WrestleMania nights 1 and 2 and the NXT on Saturday afternoon. Stand and Deliver will be a fun show as well. I'm probably not going to be reviewing NXT because I don't follow it a whole lot here on the channel. But some of these other shows I hope to do some reviews for. We'll have to wait and see. They may not be until Monday morning, especially the WrestleMania review. I'll probably do both nights in one review here, probably dropping it Monday morning on the channel. SmackDown and Rampage and Collision, I'll play it by ear this week since there is so much wrestling on. But I'll try to weave them into some other reviews if I have to or whatever. I'll try to make sure we get them covered here as well, heading into the Monday Night Raw after Mania as well. So busy weekend coming up. I hope you guys enjoy professional wrestling. Like I said, just enjoy the shows. WrestleMania is going to be a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoy that as well. But comment below. Let me know what you guys think about everything pro wrestling right now. What do you think of Adam Copeland's speech? What do you think about Samoa Joe and Swerve Strickland? What do you think about Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson? Everything going on in this show as well. Let me know. And don't forget to hit that like and subscribe. And until my next video, guys, take care and God bless.